What's up, Internet? 2025 is finally here, and we can't wait to share our plans for the next phase of FlipScreen games.
We're making some updates to our core programming in 2025 that we feel will help us focus our attention where it's needed most, all while improving the quality of our 3 flagship shows.
First up, we're taking our shows live.
Starting in February, Nintendo Noise and the Steam Deck podcast will both be live Tuesdays and Thursdays respectively over on youtube.com/FlipScreenGames.
The exact time we go live will be subject to change as we experiment and hammer out any kinks over the next few weeks, but we'll publish our live schedule on Patreon, Discord, and YouTube at the start of each week so you know when to tune in.
But what about the FlipScreen Games podcast?
Between the general release of SteamOS ushering in a new generation of handheld PCs and the long-anticipated debut of Nintendo Switch 2, it's going to be an especially important year for what's always been our biggest passion, handheld gaming.
In an effort to keep up with what we anticipate will be a crazy year of handheld gaming news, reviews, reactions, we're making some big changes to the way we do the FlipScreen Games podcast.
Starting in February, the show will shift from a weekly release to a once-a-month format, focusing on tackling major events in gaming, talking about what we're playing, taking deeper dives into ongoing news stories, and answering your questions.
We've thought a lot about it, and we feel that this change will give us the time we need to invest more effort into the types of episodes we know you all love the most. When a big story breaks, rather than being forced to report smaller updates over the course of weeks and weeks, we can take our time to gather research, do our own reporting, and present the kind of story behind the story topic that we know you love.
When a big game comes out, we'll have a lot more time to play it before we offer our impressions.
Finally, and most importantly, it will make it easier for us to make you part of the show.
We get so many amazing questions from you all that we never get a chance to address because each episode is so tied to that week's big news.
In our new format, we'll post a poll 2 weeks in advance so the audience can weigh in on topics for the month or request certain games to be covered.
A week prior to the show, we'll announce the final topic so the audience can write in and submit questions.
And we'll also reserve the right to do an extra episode whenever we want. If there's a special event, if there's a spoiler cast we really want to do. Whenever it makes sense for us to do an extra episode, we'll do it.
This wasn't an easy decision to make, and we're sure some of you may, at least initially, be disappointed by the change. We hope you'll give us the opportunity to show you how this change will positively impact the show.
We felt stretched a bit thin last year. No matter how hard we tried, we were always missing something. A story we wanted to cover, a game we wanted to discuss, a question we wanted to answer, because we were always trying to keep up with the news.
With this new format, we'll each get a few hours back in our week to play more games and do more research, all of which will empower us to make each episode feel like a special event.
But what happens if there's a huge breaking news story and the next episode of FlipScreen Games is a whole month away?
That's where my new Patreon exclusive show, The Daily Checkpoint, comes in. Every Monday through Friday, I'll spend 10 minutes answering your questions or sharing my off-the-cuff thoughts about what I'm playing and the goings-on of the video game industry. Each daily episode will post immediately after I record it over on Patreon, and on that same post, you'll be able to leave a comment to suggest a topic for the next day's checkpoint. If for any reason I'm ever not able to record an episode, I promise to make up those 10 minutes the following episode. So even if I'm away for a week, you'll be guaranteed to get 50 minutes of one-on-one gaming discussion with yours truly. Consider this part of our pilot program, just like the Steam Deck podcast before it. We're going to give it a go. If you guys respond to the format, it'll keep going. If not, we'll try something else out.
We couldn't do any of this without your support. That's why we're overhauling our Patreon for 2025.
We'll be the first to admit it's been a bit of a ghost town the past year while we navigated a number of personal challenges. Moving, breakups, new relationships, new jobs, new everything.
So just like our podcast, we're doubling down on our Patreon offerings this year to bring you the most value for your support possible. We've simplified our support tiers down to just 2 options.
Support us at the $5 level and become a Flip Freak to gain access to all of our Patreon exclusive content, including early access to the unedited live VOD of Nintendo Noise and the Steam Deck podcast immediately following our live broadcast, Pete's new Daily Checkpoint show and the ability to pitch topics, and finally, Season 2 of After Dark, the return, revival, rebranding of our bi-weekly, monthly podcast, where we discuss the world outside of video games. We'll talk about our lives, answer listener questions, and play silly games. If you've ever wanted to hang out with the crew in between episodes, this is the podcast for you.
And if you want to go that extra mile, you can support us at the $10 level to become a Screen Queen, where you'll become a Patreon producer and get your name called out at the end of every episode. Plus, when we do our monthly FlipScreen Games podcast, we'll guarantee that your questions get read first on the air.
So if you're still on the fence, become a free member to access our Patreon feed for behind-the-scenes updates, listener polls, and more.
We can't thank you enough for all of the incredible support you've given FlipScreen Games since we launched back in 2021. And with your support, we are ready to make 2025 our biggest and best year yet.
Wherever you watch, however you show your support, thank you. We'll see you in the chat.